Captain Elias Ward stood on the observation deck of the human starship Aurora, staring at the planet below. Its surface shimmered like a jewel in the darkness of space, glowing with soft blues, purples, and greens. Crystal forests stretched across the land, reflecting the light of 3 suns. Floating lakes hovered in the air, their surfaces perfectly still, reflecting the sky above. Elias had seen many planets, but none like this. "This is incredible," whispered Lieutenant Mara, his second-in-command, beside him. "The scans show life everywhere, but it's unlike anything we've ever seen." Elias nodded but didn't speak. He was too busy trying to take in the sight. Every detail of the planet seemed alive, not just the trees and lakes, but the light itself. It made him feel small, yet strangely awake. "Captain," Mara said, "we're receiving a message. They want to meet us on the surface." Elias straightened. "Finally. Let's hope they're friendly." The Aurora descended slowly through the atmosphere. The air shimmered as if it were alive, bending the light in colors he could not name. Their shuttle landed on a smooth crystal plateau. The ground was hard but glowed faintly under their boots. Waiting for them were a group of aliens, tall and slender, their skin glowing faintly in patterns that changed like liquid. Their eyes were bright and intelligent. At the center of the group stood Princess Lyra. She was taller than any human, graceful in movement, and wore a flowing robe that sparkled like the lakes behind her. Her hair shimmered with silver strands, catching the sunlight. Even from a distance, Elias could feel her presence. "Humans," a calm, melodic voice said. One of the aliens stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Solon. Welcome to our world. You may speak freely, but understand our customs are different from yours." Elias nodded. "Thank you. I am Captain Elias Ward, and this is my crew. We come in peace and wish to learn from your people." Princess Lyra did not speak. She watched them silently, her gaze calm but unreadable. Elias felt a sudden nervousness. It was not fear. Something stronger, a strange mix of awe and curiosity. They were led through the crystal forest toward a terrace overlooking a floating lake. The sky was painted in colors he had no names for, and the water hovered like a mirror. The aliens moved without making a sound, their steps perfectly synchronized with the light that seemed to pulse beneath them. "This is beautiful," Elias whispered. "Beautiful?" Mara asked, looking at him. "Everything here is beautiful. Be careful what you say." He barely had time to respond before he noticed Princess Lyra. She stood slightly apart from the others, observing the lake, her expression unreadable. Her movements were calm, precise, yet her presence seemed to make the air itself quieter. Elias felt his heart beat faster. Without thinking, he whispered under his breath, "The most gorgeous thing I've ever seen." Immediately, he realized he had spoken aloud. Princess Lyra turned slowly. Her face showed no anger, but she did not smile. She turned her eyes away and walked toward the edge of the terrace, leaving a space between them. Elias's words hung in the air, awkward and heavy. Mara nudged him. "Elias, maybe don't say things like that. Not here, not yet." Elias rubbed the back of his neck. I just meant—" He stopped. How could he explain the way she seemed to glow with calm strength, how the light in her eyes made him forget everything else? He had no words. Ambassador Solon noticed the tension and stepped forward. "Captain Ward, you are new to our customs. Our people do not receive compliments lightly. They value understanding, not admiration of appearance. Please respect this." Elias bowed his head slightly. "Of course, I apologize if I offended." Princess Lyra remained silent. She gazed at the floating lake, her figure still and perfect, and Elias felt an almost physical pull toward her. He wanted to explain, to tell her that it was not just her appearance but the way she moved, the way she seemed in tune with everything around her, but he held his tongue. The ceremony began shortly after. Humans and aliens gathered on the terrace. Crystal instruments floated in the air, producing music that resonated in the chest, not just the ears. Lights danced across the forest, shifting in rhythm with the sounds. Elias had never seen anything like it. Every human present felt their senses sharpened, their emotions heightened. It was beautiful in a way that went beyond words. Princess Lyra led the ceremony. She raised her hands, and the floating lakes shimmered brighter. Light twisted around the crystals like living ribbons. Elias watched her carefully. He could see her control the energy not with machines but with thought and intention. Every movement was precise, graceful, and yet full of strength. The more he watched, the more he realized why his words had caused discomfort. He had spoken of beauty as something simple, something visual, when here, beauty was tied to skill, wisdom, and harmony. After the ceremony, they were led to a dining area. The tables were made of translucent crystal. Food hovered above them, glowing softly. It was nourishment, Elias realized, but also a work of art. He tasted a small piece. Flavors danced on his tongue in a way he could not describe, combining the essence of multiple fruits and minerals he had never known. "Captain Ward," Princess Lyra said softly, her voice like wind over water. Elias looked up, startled. She had spoken to him directly, though she did not look at him fully. "You are observant. You notice what others miss. That is rare." He nodded. "Thank you. I want to understand your world." She nodded once and turned her gaze back to the horizon. Elias realized she did not need compliments. What she valued was awareness, thoughtfulness, and respect. He had made a mistake, but he was learning. As the day went on, Elias explored the city with Ambassador Solon. Towers of crystal spiraled upward, reflecting the skies. Floating bridges connected the towers, moving gently with the wind. Everywhere he looked, aliens worked in harmony with the environment. He saw machines, but they were small, subtle, and completely integrated into the ecosystem. It was a society where intellect, grace, and creativity were intertwined. Despite all the marvels, his mind kept returning to Princess Lyra. Every so often he would catch a glimpse of her watching from a distance. She never smiled, but her gaze held intelligence and quiet curiosity. Elias wondered what thoughts passed through her mind. He wanted to impress her, to earn her respect, but he also understood that admiration alone would not be enough. That evening, as the twin suns began to set, Elias returned to the terrace where he first saw her. The sky was now a swirl of deep purples and fiery oranges. The floating lakes reflected the colors, creating the illusion of walking among the stars. He took a deep breath. "I have so much to learn," he whispered to himself. "And I think she might teach me." He did not see Princess Lyra approach from behind. She stepped lightly onto the terrace, her presence quiet yet undeniable. Elias turned slowly. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she gestured toward the horizon. The lakes, the forests, the skies, all reflected her calm, measured beauty, and Elias realized that she was a part of this world in a way no human could ever be. Finally, she spoke. "Captain Ward, you are different from the others, curious, brave, observant. Do not let your eagerness blind you. Learn first and speak later." Elias nodded, swallowing hard. "I will. I promise." She gave a small nod and stepped back, disappearing into the twilight. Elias stood alone on the terrace, the wind brushing past him, carrying the light and sound of a world he barely understood. Yet for the first time in his life, he felt that he was exactly where he needed to be. He whispered again, almost to himself, "The most gorgeous thing I've ever seen." And this time he meant more than just one person. He meant the planet, the life, and the spirit of understanding that lay before him. Elias knew the journey had only begun. Tomorrow, he would meet challenges that would test human ingenuity, courage, and heart. But for now, he simply stood there, letting the light of 3 suns wash over him, thinking of the silent, mysterious princess who had turned away, and wondering what he could do to truly earn her respect. The stars above seemed to pulse in response, as if the universe itself was watching, waiting for humanity to rise to the occasion. And Elias, human among aliens, felt a spark of hope, determination, and pride. The next morning, the twin suns rose over the crystal forests, casting long, colorful shadows across the floating lakes. Captain Elias Ward awoke in the human delegation's quarters, a room carved directly from crystal. It glowed faintly, warm and calm, as if the walls themselves exuded quiet energy. Lieutenant Mara was already awake, examining the reports from their scans. "Captain, the aliens' technology is unlike anything we've seen. Their energy fields, their buildings, even their transportation systems, all integrated with the environment. There's no waste, no pollution." Elias rubbed his eyes and stretched. "It's impressive. And the princess, Lyra, she's unlike anyone I've ever met." Mara smiled knowingly. "I can see that. But be careful. Remember what Ambassador Solon said yesterday. Their culture is delicate. They value observation and respect over words. Your compliment might have been misinterpreted." Elias nodded, thinking back to the terrace. Lyra's silent reaction had stung, but he had learned something important. Beauty here was not just in appearance. It was skill, wisdom, and presence. He needed to understand that fully. "Today," Elias said, "I want to see more of their culture. I want to learn, not just look." The humans were greeted by Ambassador Solon, who led them through the city. Towers of transparent crystal spiraled upward like liquid frozen in motion. Bridges floated between them, moving gently in the wind. Aliens moved gracefully along the pathways, their patterns of glowing skin shifting as if communicating silently. "This city," Solon explained, "was built over centuries. Every structure balances function, beauty, and harmony with nature. Nothing here exists without purpose. Our people do not separate work from life. Everything we do is part of the whole," Elias observed carefully. Machines hummed softly, entirely unobtrusive, and buildings reflected the light of the suns in perfect symmetry. Every movement of the aliens was precise. Even when walking, they seemed to glide. Humans looked clumsy in comparison. They arrived at the Academy of Energy, a vast hall where students trained in harnessing the planet's natural energy. Elias followed Solon into a large courtyard where aliens practiced manipulating streams of light. With gestures, they formed shapes, controlled energy currents, and created patterns that floated in the air. One young alien demonstrated a sequence of movements, and the light responded instantly, forming intricate ribbons and spheres. Elias was fascinated. "It's like magic," he whispered to Mara. "Not magic," she said. "Skill, discipline, and understanding. Humans can learn this too, but it takes patience." Then across the courtyard, Elias saw her, Princess Lyra. She moved with elegance, controlling a stream of energy that twisted into a perfect spiral around her. Her focus was absolute, and yet there was something natural in her movements, as if the energy responded to her very thoughts. Elias realized he had underestimated her. She was not just a princess. She was a master of her world. Lyra noticed him watching and paused, but she did not scold him. Instead, she observed his reaction with quiet curiosity. Elias felt a rush of emotion, awe, respect, and something more subtle. He wanted to speak, but he remembered the lesson of the terrace. He needed to earn her respect, not merely voice admiration. Ambassador Solon approached him. "Captain Ward, you observe closely." "That is a good start. To understand our people, you must experience our practices, not just watch." Elias nodded. "I'm ready." Solon guided them to a smaller chamber. Inside, energy crystals floated above a shallow pool. "This exercise," Solon explained, "teaches synchronization. Humans must connect their thoughts with the energy around them. Many fail at first, but with focus, patience, and respect for the flow, progress is possible." Elias stepped forward, feeling the hum of the crystals. He closed his eyes and focused. At first, nothing happened. He moved his hands, tried to push and pull, but the energy ignored him. Frustration began to rise, but he remembered the lesson of yesterday. Observe first, act second. He slowed his movements, watched the flow, and allowed himself to feel it rather than control it. Slowly, faint ribbons of light responded to his presence. They curved, shimmered, and reacted to the smallest gestures. Elias' eyes opened in wonder. He had never felt anything like this, a connection between mind and environment, a harmony that required patience, courage, and humility. Princess Lyra approached silently, her expression calm. "You feel it," she said softly. "Not as an outsider, but as part of it. That is a rare gift. Many humans rush, try to dominate you." "Listen first." Elias bowed slightly. "I am learning." "Thank you." Lyra studied him for a moment, then turned to demonstrate a more complex sequence. Her hands moved with perfect grace, and the ribbons of energy responded instantly. Elias watched, amazed. She was not only beautiful, but powerful, disciplined, and wise. He understood now why his earlier compliment had seemed shallow. He had admired only what was visible, not what was earned. The rest of the day passed in similar lessons. Humans attempted exercises under Lyra's careful guidance. Some failed. Others succeeded partially, but Elias noticed small changes in the crew. They began to think differently, moving with awareness and respect rather than force. During a break, Elias asked Lyra about her people. "Why is understanding so important here? Why not simply admire or speak freely?" Lyra considered him. "Admiration without understanding is fragile. Words without knowledge are empty. Our world survives because every action, every thought is measured. To respect another is to see their truth, not just their appearance." Elias nodded. He realized that human bravery and creativity were powerful, but they needed refinement here. Lyra's world valued balance, harmony, and wisdom alongside courage. Later, as the twin suns set over the floating lakes, Elias walked alone. The lakes shimmered in hues of gold and violet. He reflected on the day, feeling both humbled and inspired. Humans had arrived on this planet with technology, ambition, and courage, but Lyra's people taught something equally important: patience, harmony, and deep understanding. He thought of Princess Lyra. She was distant but not cold. Her silence was not rejection, it was a challenge. He had seen her strength, her wisdom, and her grace. To earn her trust, he realized he needed to do more than admire. He needed to act, learn, and grow. The stars began to appear as the suns dipped below the horizon. The crystal forests glowed softly in the evening light, casting reflections across the lakes. Elias stood quietly, letting the beauty of the planet and the lesson of the day sink in. He whispered under his breath, "This is more than beautiful. It's inspiring, and I want to be worthy of understanding it, and her." Unknown to him, Princess Lyra watched from a distance, her figure blending with the light. She saw his reflection in the water, the determination in his stance, and a small, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. Perhaps, she thought, this human was different. Perhaps he could understand more than most. Elias returned to the human quarters that night, his mind restless. He wrote notes, sketches, and observations about the planet and its people. Everything he had seen today challenged his old ideas. The humans were capable, yes, but here they had to adapt, and he would lead by example. He fell asleep thinking of the next day. More lessons awaited, more chances to prove that humanity could rise to challenges, respect differences, and contribute to the harmony of a world not their own. And maybe, just maybe, he could earn a place of mutual respect with the princess who had turned away so gracefully. Outside, the crystal forests shimmered under the twin moons that rose alongside the stars. The planet breathed in quiet rhythm, a living testament to patience, wisdom, and beauty earned, and somewhere in that light a human heart learned to listen. The planet was quiet the next morning. The floating lakes shimmered in the light of 2 rising suns, and the crystal forests reflected hues of violet and gold. After the attack, the city had repaired itself almost miraculously. It was as if the planet itself absorbed the shocks of conflict and restored balance. Captain Elias Ward walked along the edge of a floating lake, thinking about the battle the day before. The rogue fleet had retreated, but their threat remained. The humans had proven their ingenuity, but Elias knew that real trust with the aliens would require more than clever strategy. He had to understand their world, their culture, and Princess Lyra herself. A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "Captain Ward." Elias turned to see Princess Lyra approaching. She moved with quiet grace, her hands folded, her gaze steady but unreadable. "You wish to see more of our customs," she said. "Today you will." Elias bowed slightly. "I am ready, Princess. I want to learn everything I can." Lyra led him through a winding path of crystal bridges and suspended walkways. The city around them was waking, citizens moving with purpose and calm precision. Aliens greeted them silently with gestures and light patterns. a form of communication Elias had begun to understand. They arrived at a ceremonial hall, vast and open, with walls of transparent crystal and a floor that reflected the sky above. In the center, an energy field pulsed like a heartbeat. Lyra gestured for Elias to step closer. "This is the ceremony of balance," she explained. "It honors those who contribute to the harmony of our world. Each participant demonstrates respect, understanding, and skill. Today you will observe but also participate." Elias watched as aliens performed intricate sequences, guiding energy currents with gestures, flowing through patterns that seemed impossible. The energy responded to intention, not force. Each movement was precise, purposeful, and beautiful. He felt a mixture of awe and humility. "You will join us," Lyra said, "not to perform perfectly, but to show your willingness to learn." Elias stepped into the energy circle. At first, nothing happened. He tried to move the currents as he had before, but the energy resisted, flowing around him instead. He felt frustration rising, but he remembered the lessons of patience and observation. He closed his eyes, allowed himself to feel the rhythm of the energy, and moved with the flow rather than against it. Slowly, streams of light began to respond to him, twisting and turning as if acknowledging his presence. Lyra watched silently, her expression calm. "You are learning faster than most humans. You do not seek to dominate. You seek to understand. That is why your people can inspire." Elias glanced at her, surprised by her words. "Inspire?" "Yes," she replied softly. "Bravery, ingenuity, and respect. These qualities are rare in any species. They are more valuable than power alone." For the first time, Elias realized that she was not speaking of physical beauty, but of spirit, action, and character. The lesson struck him deeply. Beauty in Lyra's world was earned, not observed. Respect, understanding, and courage were what made someone remarkable. After the ceremony, Lyra led Elias to a quiet terrace overlooking the floating lakes. The water mirrored the sky, and the wind carried the faint hum of energy through the air. She gestured for him to sit beside her. "Yesterday you acted bravely," she said. "You combined your human ingenuity with our energy fields. That saved many lives. But you also observed and respected our methods. That is what impressed me." Elias nodded. "I wanted to help, but I also wanted to understand. I didn't want to make the same mistakes I did when I first met you." Lyra's gaze softened slightly. "You have learned quickly. Many humans rush forward without thought. You act with courage, yet you also think. That is rare." Elias felt a warmth in his chest, a mixture of pride and humility. He had come to this planet as an explorer, but he was learning that true heroism was not only about action, but understanding. They sat in silence for a while, watching the lakes shimmer in the light. Elias noticed small details he had missed before. The gentle sway of floating water, the faint glow of crystals beneath the surface, and the subtle movements of Lyra's hands as she rested them on her lap. Every detail seemed meaningful, every motion precise. "You see," Lyra said finally, "our strength comes not just from our skills, but from balance. Every action, every thought contributes to the whole. Humans have courage, yes, but courage without respect can be dangerous. You have learned that yesterday." Elias nodded. "I understand, and I want to learn more. About balance, about your world, and about you." Lyra's eyes flickered, and for a moment her calm exterior betrayed a hint of curiosity. "About me? There is little to teach. I am part of this world. My skills, my duties, my life, they are tied to it. If you wish to understand me, you must first understand the planet and our people." "I will," Elias said firmly. "I want to understand, and I want to help." The day passed with lessons in patience, observation, and teamwork. Elias learned how to manipulate smaller energy streams, guided by Lyra's careful instructions. Each success, no matter how minor, was a step toward understanding. The humans around him also adapted, learning to respect the alien ways, to observe before acting, to combine their strengths with the energy around them. That evening, Elias and Lyra walked along a floating bridge above the crystal forest. The stars began to appear, their reflections sparkling in the lakes below. Elias spoke quietly. "Princess, I know I still have much to learn, but I want to be someone worthy of your respect, not just admiration. I want to understand this world as fully as I can." Lyra glanced at him. "You are already on that path. Understanding is not given. It is earned, and you are earning it." For a moment, the distance between them seemed smaller. Elias realized that trust was forming slowly, quietly, not through words but through action and shared understanding. They paused at the edge of the bridge. The water below reflected both the stars and the glowing crystal trees. Elias felt a sense of awe, not just for the planet but for the possibilities it represented. Humans and aliens working together could achieve something remarkable. "Captain Ward," Lyra said softly, "what you humans do is remarkable. You face the unknown with courage. You adapt, you learn, you persist. That is inspiring." Elias felt his heart beat faster. This time her words were not a rebuke or warning. They were acknowledgement, respect, recognition. He had taken the first step toward bridging their worlds. As night deepened, they returned to the human quarters. Elias reflected on the day. He had seen the strength of Lyra's people, their harmony with the planet, and the importance of patience and observation. He had also begun to understand the meaning of true courage, not only to act, but to act wisely, respectfully, and with humility. He knew challenges would come again. The rogue fleet had retreated, but they could return, and there were still mysteries of the planet, the energy, and its people that he had yet to uncover. But Elias felt a quiet confidence. Humans had courage, ingenuity, and determination. And if they combined those qualities with respect and understanding, they could meet any challenge. Princess Lyra watched from a balcony, the moonlight reflecting in her calm eyes. She had seen Elias grow even in a short time. His courage, patience, and willingness to learn had earned her respect. She had not smiled, but she had acknowledged him in a small, almost imperceptible shift, but one that meant more than words. And Elias, standing among humans and aliens alike, knew that tomorrow would bring new trials, but also new opportunities, and to grow, to inspire, and to prove that humanity could rise to meet even the greatest challenges with courage, wisdom, and heart. The planet pulsed quietly beneath them, a living testament to patience, balance, and the beauty of understanding. And somewhere in the crystal forests, a human and a princess began to bridge the gap between worlds. Step by careful step, Elias whispered again, not of appearance, but of spirit. "The most gorgeous thing I've ever seen is courage, understanding, and the chance to protect what is beautiful." And for the first time, Princess Lyra's eyes reflected not only the planet's light, but quiet approval. The planet was calm at dawn, but Elias knew that peace was often temporary. The rogue fleet had retreated, but their threat lingered in the edges of space. Today he would prove that humanity could rise not only with courage, but with understanding, ingenuity, and heart. Captain Elias Ward stood on the observation platform overlooking the Crystal City. Princess Lyra joined him silently. The twin suns reflected in her eyes, calm yet commanding. For the first time, Elias felt that their partnership was equal, built on mutual respect rather than words alone. "Captain Ward," Lyra said, "the fleet may return. Your people have shown courage, but now we must ensure our planet is protected permanently. Do you understand what this means?" Elias nodded. "Yes, we will combine our skills with yours. Humans are good at strategy and improvisation. You excel at harmony and energy control. Together we can create a defense that no force can break." Lyra's expression softened slightly. "Then let us begin." The humans and aliens gathered in the city's energy hub. The rogue fleet scanners had already been observed by Elias's crew, and together with the aliens they devised a plan. Energy barriers would be strengthened, but humans would also deploy their ships in coordinated maneuvers that the aliens had never attempted. It was a perfect blend of human adaptability and alien precision. Elias stepped forward to address both crews. "We are on a world that values balance, understanding, and courage. Our goal is not only to defend, but to prove that humans can rise to challenges with thought, respect, and heart. Work together, trust each other, and we will succeed." The preparations were intense. Humans synchronized their ships with alien energy streams, using glowing control panels and hand gestures to link technology with natural energy. Princess Lyra moved through the hub like a conductor, guiding humans and aliens with calm authority. Elias followed her instructions, adapting quickly to the new systems. Then, as if on cue, the rogue fleet returned. Dark silhouettes against the shimmering sky, their weapons poised for destruction. But this time the city was ready. Energy barriers pulsed in brilliant patterns, reflecting and redirecting incoming attacks. Human ships moved with precision, weaving through the fleet to disrupt formations. The battle began, faster and more dangerous than before. Enemy fire collided with energy fields, creating sparks that danced across the sky. Elias directed humans to coordinate with aliens, sending waves of information and instructions across the network. Every movement counted, every choice mattered. Princess Lyra stood atop a floating terrace, controlling massive currents of energy with her hands. She moved gracefully, her gestures precise, yet she kept her eyes on Elias. He observed her calm focus and realized something profound. Strength was not just physical power, but control, awareness, and understanding. Elias made a bold decision. "We will use the left flank to lure the fleet into the trap," he called. Humans adjusted their positions and the aliens followed Lyra's lead. The fleet, sensing an opening, rushed forward, only to be caught in a web of redirected energy and strategic maneuvers. Explosions lit the skies, but Elias remained focused. He coordinated human ships with alien energy streams, guiding blasts and currents with perfect timing. Slowly, the enemy fleet began to falter, forced to retreat or face destruction. Amid the chaos, Elias noticed Princess Lyra directing the energy flows in a complex pattern. Streams of light twisted around enemy ships, disarming them without destruction. He realized the genius of the aliens' approach. They did not destroy what could be saved. They neutralized threats with precision. As the last of the rogue fleet fled into deep space, the city's energy field stabilized. The crystal towers glowed softly, and the floating lakes shimmered in calm reflection. Citizens emerged from their shelters, moving gracefully as they repaired minor disruptions. Elias exhaled, exhausted but exhilarated. "We did it," he whispered. Humans and aliens had worked together, each contributing their strengths to achieve victory. Princess Lyra approached him. Her eyes, calm and bright, met his. "Captain Ward," she said, "you have proven much more than courage. You have shown understanding, adaptability, and respect. That is what makes humans remarkable, that is, inspiring." Elias felt a rush of emotion. He had learned that admiration alone was not enough. To be truly worthy of respect, he needed to act with integrity, courage, and humility. And he had. Lyra gestured toward the floating lakes. The water reflected the light of the twin suns in the crystal towers. "Look at this world," she said softly. "It is beautiful because it is balanced. Strength without wisdom can destroy. Courage without understanding can fail. But humans, you can inspire hope. That is the most gorgeous thing I have ever seen." Elias was silent for a moment. He realized she was not speaking about physical beauty or appearance. She was speaking about spirit, courage, ingenuity, respect, and heart. And in that moment he understood that the compliment he had whispered on the terrace long ago had been incomplete. True beauty lay not in what could be seen, but in what could be done and understood. "I understand," Elias said quietly. "The most gorgeous thing is courage, respect, and understanding. Not just in people, but in actions." Lyra's lips curved slightly, a small but genuine smile. For the first time, she did not turn away. She acknowledged him fully, her calm presence filled with quiet approval. The humans and aliens celebrated quietly. There was no loud cheering, no displays of power. Instead, there was harmony, a shared sense of accomplishment and understanding. Elias looked around at the floating lakes, the crystal towers, and the people who had trusted him. He felt a deep pride in humanity's ability to rise to challenges, not through brute force, but through courage, ingenuity, and respect. As evening fell, Elias and Lyra walked along a bridge suspended above the crystal forest. Stars reflected in the lakes below, twinkling in harmony with the city's lights. Elias spoke softly, almost to himself. "Princess Lyra, I came here to explore, to understand, and to help. I never imagined that I would learn so much. About courage, about respect, and about the true meaning of beauty." Lyra glanced at him. "And you have learned quickly. Humans are often bold, sometimes reckless, but you act with thought and understanding. That is rare. That is what makes your people capable of greatness." Elias smiled. "Then I will continue to learn, and I will continue to act with courage, respect, and understanding." Lyra's eyes softened further. "Then perhaps, Captain Ward, you have begun to show us what humanity truly is. Not just clever, not just brave, but capable of inspiring hope in others. That is truly beautiful." For the first time, Elias felt that he had earned more than admiration. He had earned trust and respect. And in that quiet moment above the crystal forests, he realized that the journey had been worth every challenge, every lesson, and every risk. The twin suns set, painting the skies with gold and purple. The floating lakes reflected the colors and the crystal towers glowed softly. Princess Lyra turned to him, and this time, her gaze met his without hesitation. "You see, Captain Ward," she said softly, "you have learned what I wanted you to understand. Courage, ingenuity, and heart, that is what makes humans remarkable. And that is the most gorgeous thing I have ever seen." Elias smiled. He no longer felt awkward or uncertain. He understood now. Beauty was not just something seen, it was something earned through action, respect, and understanding. He had witnessed it in Princess Lyra, in her people, and perhaps most importantly, in humanity itself. As they stood together above the glowing city, Elias whispered again, "Not just of appearance, but of spirit. The most gorgeous thing I've ever seen is courage, understanding, and the chance to protect what is beautiful." Lyra's smile deepened slightly. She placed a hand lightly on a crystal railing, her eyes reflecting not only the city's light but quiet recognition of the human who had proven himself worthy. Elias knew the future held challenges. The rogue fleet could return, the universe could throw dangers his way, and the mysteries of this world were far from solved. But for the first time, he felt certain that humans could rise to any occasion, not with force alone, but with courage, intelligence, heart, and respect. And as the twin moons rose over the floating lakes, Elias and Lyra looked out across the shimmering forests, knowing that humanity had found its place, not just as visitors or explorers, but as partners, allies, and friends. Together, humans and aliens could protect, learn, and grow, building a future where courage and understanding shone brighter than any star. The city pulsed with quiet life. The planet's energy flowed in perfect harmony, and in that calm, shining world, Elias realized the truth. The most gorgeous thing was not a person, a planet, or even a victory. It was the spirit of humanity itself, rising to meet every challenge with heart, respect, and unwavering courage. The hall of the Interstellar Council was massive, taller than any building on Earth and brighter than 1,000 suns reflected on glass. Light danced off polished walls, shimmering in colors that no human eyes could naturally see. Delegates from hundreds of worlds filled the benches, their forms strange and beautiful, some with wings, some with multiple limbs, and some that seemed almost liquid, shifting as they moved. At the center of the hall stood the podium, carved from a single crystal that pulsed gently like it had a heartbeat of its own. Among the crowd of aliens, a lone human walked steadily. Captain Elias Trent moved with quiet confidence, his heavy, polished armor clinking softly with each step. The armor was designed to protect him in battle, covering every inch of his body, but it also made him look larger and slower compared to the lithe aliens around him. He did not rush. He did not glance around nervously. Every movement was deliberate, every step calm. His eyes, dark and steady, scanned the room without fear. Elias had been summoned to the council for a ceremonial demonstration, a rare honor and a rare challenge. Humans were few in this part of the galaxy. Many considered them weak, primitive, and overly dependent on simple tools. Some even whispered that humans would never survive in serious combat against more advanced species. Elias had heard all of it. He had been called weak, fragile, and foolish. But he also knew the truth. Humans were unpredictable, adaptable, and unyielding. As he approached the center of the hall, a ripple of attention passed through the crowd. Aliens turned to look at him, their faces and forms full of curiosity. Some stared in disbelief. One in particular, a tall, striking alien with violet skin and 4 elegant arms, stepped forward from her seat. Her name was Lady Zira, and she was known across the galaxy for her skill in both diplomacy and combat. Her long, sharp eyes fixed on Elias, and a smirk curved her lips. "Is this the human?" she asked, her voice clear and cutting, carrying easily through the hall. "Yes," someone whispered. "That is him. Elias Trent." Elias did not flinch. He looked directly at Lady Zira and inclined his head slightly. Respect, but no fear. Lady Zira laughed softly, a sound that echoed like bells in the crystal hall. I see the stories were true, she said. The human wears armor as if that will save him. How fragile, how amusing. She gestured at the thick plates of metal covering him. You call that protection? Or do you simply hope it will hide your weakness? The hall erupted in laughter. Aliens of all shapes and sizes leaned forward, whispering and pointing. Some clapped in amusement. Elias remained still, his face calm, his eyes steady on Lady Zira. The human ambassador, a quiet man named Marcus, whispered to Elias, "Do not let her words get to you. They think they are clever, but humans are different." Elias nodded once. He did not need to speak. He did not need to prove anything yet. The council had summoned him not just to wear armor, but to show what humans were truly capable of. Lady Zira raised her hands and the hall fell silent again. "Very well, human," she said, her voice now sharp, commanding attention. "You will demonstrate your skill. Show us what your people can do. Perhaps your armor will move as fast as your mind. Or perhaps we will see just how slow and clumsy you truly are." The words were meant to humiliate, to make him stumble. But Elias did not falter. He simply nodded and stepped forward into the ceremonial space at the center of the hall. The floor beneath him shimmered faintly, sensing his weight and presence. The aliens around him began to demonstrate their own abilities first. A four-armed warrior leaped into the air, spinning and striking with blades that shimmered with energy. A liquid-like alien split into smaller forms, striking multiple points at once. Another floated above the floor, manipulating gravity itself to perform impossible acrobatics. Each display drew gasps and applause. Elias watched carefully, noticing patterns, noticing timing. He did not move yet, because his first move would be his own, and it had to count. Lady Zira's laughter returned. "See, human, look at them. Elegance, power, speed. Now you will attempt whatever it is you call combat. Let us see if your armor will protect you from embarrassment." Elias removed his gauntlet briefly, adjusting it, then let his arms hang at his sides. "I do not fight to impress," he said quietly, but loudly enough for the hall to hear. "I fight to survive and to overcome. Let that be enough for today." A murmur passed through the crowd. Some of the more skeptical aliens tilted their heads, curious. A few even leaned forward in interest. No one had expected a human to speak with such calm confidence. The ceremonial demonstration began. Elias moved first slowly, stepping in patterns that mirrored some of the alien techniques, careful to avoid error. His movement seemed awkward at first. The armor clanked. The audience murmured. Lady Zira's smile widened, certain she had already won the day. "See?" she called. "Fragile, slow, and burdened. You rely on metal, human, because your body cannot defend itself." But Elias did not react to the insult. He simply continued, observing, watching, learning in seconds what others took hours to master. His eyes tracked every motion, every shift in weight, every rhythm in the air around him. And then he paused. The hall quieted slightly, sensing something change in the human. His movement stopped, yet he radiated calm control. Lady Zira's forearms twitched slightly, ready to strike, confident in her advantage. Other aliens whispered, leaning in. What was the human doing? Elias took a slow breath. Then, deliberately, he reached for the clasps of his helmet. Metal shifted and fell to the floor with a soft clang. The hall gasped. Every alien's eyes focused on him, their laughter dying instantly. He removed the rest of his armor as carefully as one would remove a ceremonial robe. Each piece clattered, softly leaving him standing in the center of the hall, unarmored but not weak. The silence that followed was heavy, almost sacred. All eyes were on Elias, not because of what he wore, but because of what he was. A human, lean and disciplined, standing with perfect balance and calm certainty. His muscles were visible, honed by years of training. His posture was straight, his chin raised, his eyes focused and unflinching. Lady Zira's eyes widened. The smirk faded, replaced by a sharp, calculating glance. She realized in that instant that the human was not what she expected. He was something different. Something dangerous. Elias spoke again, his voice calm, steady, but carrying through the entire hall. You mock my armor because it is visible. You believe it defines me. But humans are not defined by metal. We are defined by our choices, our courage, and our ability to adapt. Armor is only a tool. The true strength is here. He tapped his chest. Whispers filled the hall, quiet but urgent. Even those who had mocked humans began to lean in, intrigued, unsettled by the calm authority in his voice. The mood shifted. Where there had been amusement, now there was curiosity, respect, and a growing tension. Lady Zira straightened. Her arms flexed, not in fear, but in preparation. Interesting, she said softly. Let us see, then, if your body can do what your words claim. Human, show us your skill. Elias nodded once. He did not raise his hands or make any dramatic gesture. He simply waited, poised like a coiled spring. The aliens around him watched, unsure what would happen next. They had all seen humans in stories, in battles far from this council hall, but they had never seen one stand like this, unarmored, calm, and ready. Something about him felt different, unpredictable, alive. The council chamber seemed to hold its breath. Aliens from dozens of worlds leaned forward. Lady Zira's multiple arms flexed slightly. Every eye, every attention, every mind focused on the single human in the center of the hall. Elias Trent, the human, stood ready, not because of armor, but because of who he was. And in that silence, the first step of the challenge began.